should you include guest children? So let's say, I think under teenagers. I think teenagers we can consider to be adults for practical reasons, but I'm talking like kids under 10 in your elopement or intimate wedding. And I would say, as opposed to your own children, which I talk about in the previous video, this is a little bit more probably in line with people's thoughts on this for more traditional size weddings. Some people are very much opposed to it. Other people love having kids around. So this is kind of a personal decision. But a few things to keep in mind with an elopement would be, how we're including the guests in the day. Is it just a ceremony and some portraits? Are we also doing a meal? How kid sort of friendly can we make the situation so that the kids can be included, but also not be totally bored and drive the parents crazy. Because elopements can sometimes have a little bit of downtime, especially if you're doing city hall. You can't usually bring large groups in. We can't bring large groups in anymore. And I had a wedding not too long ago. This actually worked out really well with kids. We all took the subway down. These family groups were staying at a hotel. There were quite a few people with children of different ages, guests included. And of course, a lot of times in this situation, the guest children are, your nieces and nephews or godchildren. So these are important people, right? These aren't just random guest children. So these kids are important. So you want to include them. And anyway, this was well done. We all took the subway down together, which the kids really enjoyed. But unfortunately, City Hall wouldn't allow that many people. So the kids waited outside with their parents. And for the most part, did really well. I mean, there's a place for them to play, essentially. We also did family groupings then, which was wonderful to get those photos out of the way. And then they were there to, shoot off the confetti at the end. And I think all the kids had a really good time. And then everybody went to dinner, or this was probably lunch somewhere. Now, most of these kids weren't babies for this particular wedding. They were all certainly capable of taking the subway, without a stroller. So I think that made this one particularly nice. I think it gets a little bit trickier when you're talking about including even smaller children, but for some guests, if you want to include, like, say your sister and she's got a toddler and a 5-year-old, they only can come maybe if you include the children in this day. So that's just something to think about. And I would definitely encourage you, if you are including, guest children or your own children, just to think about the logistics a bit more carefully, like how stressful is it to get from point A to point B. Always leave extra time on a wedding day. And then especially if children are involved. I mean, I learned that lesson numerous times the hard way. Okay, we need to leave an extra 15 minutes to make sure we get out the door on time, especially if you're having kids there for getting ready. Just leave a little bit of extra time so that everybody can be ready and understand where we have to go, and maybe prearrange some transportation, especially if it's a big group. But I think, especially your 5 to 10-year-olds are going to have a fantastic time at an elopement, especially if it's in a really cool location. They're going to really enjoy that. I would still be cautious about the smaller children, but presumably their parents will be there and they're not the center of attention, so they can deal with any meltdowns or issues, and then maybe other family members can help out with them. But the other and the final option would be to have a daytime ceremony, have a lunch, and then have a grandparent or who doesn't want to go out, or a sitter, watch the kids in the evening, and maybe, the couple and their friends or, siblings or whoever's attending can go out and do some more like adult fun things together in the evening while the kids are, taking care of back at the hotel or something. So definitely many ways to include children, in an elopement. Just definitely be careful depending upon their ages, and it's still great to be able to include all of them in the picture if they're really important to you.